Hello YouTube, it's Jim Chapman, American Airgun Hunter, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my last hunt in Texas on this trip. I was out with the Hatsan Piledriver air rifles. I had both the .457 and the .50 caliber rifles with me. I already had a couple days hunting. I used the .457 to take a hog and to take a doe. And I had a buck tag, and I had one last chance to get out before I got on the road. So in the afternoon, later in the afternoon, I loaded up my pack, got my gun, my gear, and I started off and I was walking to the blind. And it was about, I don't know, a half-mile walk to the blind. And I came off the road and I decided to take a shortcut, and I cut back through some bush behind the blind. And I was just coming out of the thicker stuff, and I looked down the road, and there's a little buck just trotting down the road. And he wasn't a buck I wanted. I didn't want to shoot him, but I thought, well, you know what, there's some kind of activity. I don't want to scare everything away trying to get into the blind. I might as well sit and see what happens. So I settled down into some cover, and there was a bush growing up, and I just kind of sat in it and got my guns up on sticks, and I sat there and waited. And it wasn't long before a doe came out. She went walking by, and she turned my direction, and she looked at me, and she just was staring. And I wasn't moving. I was in pretty good cover. The wind was in my favor, but she knew something was wrong, but she didn't know what, and I wasn't giving myself away. So I sat there and watched, and she did that thing that does do. She looked at me, she stomped a little bit. She didn't blow, but she stomped, and then she started eating, and she looked up at me again, and then wandered off. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm in the clear. But then two more does came in, and they both looked at me, and there were a couple more off to the side where I had the camera set up. You can't really see them, but they came in and they were looking. So I had about 4 does. They had me pinned down in the bush right where I was, and I'm thinking, well, this might be as far as I get. And I thought, well, okay, I might end up sitting here for a while. But anyway, then the does all started to clear out. One remained, the others all kind of took off. And they were heading back towards where the feeders were in the blinds. Still, I was still probably 200-300 yards away from them. But there was one doe that was sticking around, and she was kind of watching me. But then she started to back away, and she was looking in a direction off to my left, and she's kind of backing out and going, oh, something's happening. And about that time, I glanced out of the corner of my eye, and I saw a buck jump over a fence and start moving over towards her. And so I settled in, and I watched him. He wasn't a huge buck. He was a decent shooter, and a 6-point. And again, just I figured it'd be a good meat deer. So I settled in and waited, and he came in, and I watched him move around a little bit, and he gave me a broadside with a slight quartering angle to it. But I lined up the crosshairs when he put his head down to eat. He popped back up, and I had him right in the crosshairs. And I squeezed off the shot, and I watched through the scope as the slug impacted him right above the right behind the shoulder. And this thing just flew up in the air. His head flipped back, and he just dumped to the ground. And another doe I hadn't seen off to the side came jumping behind him. I thought at first as it came down, did he get back up? But then I saw it was a doe, and I saw a little bit of his antler over the grass. So I gave it a minute. There was no movement. I got up, and I walked down, took a look at him, saw that he was down, he was dead. And I dragged him out. I left my stuff and ran back, got my car, came back, and I threw him onto the back of the rack. Well, actually, if you see it, I didn't throw him. I kind of dragged him onto the back of the rack and brought him back, and we dressed him out, quartered him, and I got on the road. I took a shower, I was on the road. An hour and a half later, I'm on my way back to Minnesota. So anyway, come on with me. I'm just going to pick up here where I'm out on the ranch, and I got the gun all sighted in, and I'm heading out to the blinds. So take a look at this and join me. I like reliving the hunt. It was a fun one. It looks lighter than it actually was. It was getting towards dusk, and I didn't have very much light left before it was going to be outside of filming time, and filming time usually ends before shooting time does. So anyway, take a look, and As always, if you like this at the end, give it a thumbs up, give me a like, it really helps a lot and I appreciate it. There'll be a lot more coming.
Oh, man. Another nice little buck.
So that was the end of the hunt. I got everything loaded up on the car and got on my way back. And now I'm looking at about an 18-hour drive before I roll up to my front doorstep. So I'll probably again sleep on the way. I usually stop about halfway and crawl into the back and get a few hours shut-eye before I drive on. And I'm on my way again. The 50 caliber Piledriver is a great hunting rifle for large game. The stock is a polymer synthetic with a pistol grip and a decidedly tactile look. It's a bullpup design, single shot PCP with a side lever action. The cocking effort is light and access to the loading port is very good. The rifle is big at 46.5 inches length overall, a 33-inch barrel, and it weighs well over 10 pounds. I also like that the gun has a combination 11mm Weaver scope mount, which gives you complete flexibility in how you mount your scopes. The Piledriver uses a quattro trigger design and offers a good tactile response. The 480cc bottle charges to 300 bar via a proprietary fill probe and generates 3 to 5 shots with very little shift in the point of impact in the first 3. The gun is capable of over 800 foot-pound energy. I was getting around 770 FPE with the Big Bore Supreme slugs I was using.